One of the things that you find while working with Ferbedmet is the difference between divine wrath and human emotion. Because Ferbedmet is a very wrathful striker and executioner kind of being. He's eternal and a Martian being. Now, you think you experience wrath, but you might very well just experiencing a wounded ego. You are calling righteous anger is usually unprocessed grief, pride, dressed as divine, performing as a control. But divine wrath is not like your feelings. It is rage. It is not the range of the abuse nor the reaction of the betrayal. It is not what you feel when you are humiliated, cheated, disrespected, or hurt. If you want this kind of rage, this kind of wrath to be used in your rituals or work with it, Uoorooku is the spirit for you. He burns Babylon, he burns Rome, he burns the enemies that will still not enter battle. And even Ashmedai can be in that category. But divine wrath, divine execution, is of the powers of Ferbedmet. The Greeks warn us. Plato speaks of themos, a spiritual part of the soul that gets angry. Aristotle calls anger the desire for revenge when it seems to be an insult that has been unjustly given. He says the man who is angry of the right things towards the right people for the right reason and in the right way, this man is victorious. But divine wrath really doesn't follow this logic. It isn't towards the right people or moderated or ethical. Because divine wrath does not care about property, it follows truth. If the truth demands death, it kills. If the truth demands silence, then it ends the voice. If truth demands fire, becomes fire and engulfs everything in front of it into fire. And this is what most people can't stomach, because your anger is always justified in your mind, because your anger always feels holy to you. But divine wrath is not based on what you feel, it is based on what it is. That's why prophets feared it. Look at Moshe. God tells him, because you did not sanctify before me, before the eyes of the people, you will not enter the land. And what did Moshe do? He hit a rock. He hit it instead of speaking. Not in genocide, not in idolatry, not betrayal. He hit a rock, and the wrath of God, the wrath of Hashem, closed the gate of Canaan to him forever. That is divine wrath, clean, just, and terrifying. Because it doesn't ask, did you mean well? It only asks, did you? Psychologically, what people call wrath is often just ego boundary defense. You lash out when your sense of self is pierced. Nietzsche knew this well. He said when people call justice, it's often just a spiritualization of revenge. Even your morality, he said, is built upon your own weakness, your inability to dominate. So moralize your pain. You project it as law. You say they violated me, they humiliated me, therefore I'm righteous to do a revenge upon them. But wrath isn't just about your violation. Wrath It's about the law of Hashem being broken, not your law, His. And here's the real danger. If you do not learn to separate your emotion from His wrath, you will act in your name while thinking it is of Hashem. That's idolatry. That's how religions become weaponized. That's how prophets turn into tyrants. The wrath of Hashem is slow, not because it's lazy, but because it is precise. Sefer Nahum says, Yod-Hei Vav-Hei is slow to anger, but great in power. He will not acquit the wicked. When Hashem's wrath moves, it does not fall, it executes. A Ferbedmet is the spiritual execution itself in that manner. Not just in Chokmah, not just the flash of Chokmah. In the psychological world, we as long know this difference. Freud said that unconscious anger is the rule of neurosis. It is a spoken, suppressed, and simmer before every polite smile, like the cliff oath. He said it turns inward when it cannot be resolved, becoming self-hatred and anxiety a projection. But divine wrath isn't suppressed, it isn't hiding, it's clean, it shows no shame, it has no confusion, it does not need your permission to act. Carl Jung understood something closer. He said that the wrath of the self, the divine archetype, manifests when the ego resists its transformation. The wrath of self is not petty, it's cataclysmic. The wrath of self is not petty, it's cataclysmic, because the soul is being forced to conform the truth, and the ego is refusing. So the divine fire burns away the false self. And this is the psychological manifestation of Ferbedment. That is the execution without emotion. That is wrath as a structure. And that's what people do not want. They want justice that feels like them. They want a God who is hungry for the same reasons that they are. They want fire to burn away everything that they hate. Not the one who truth condemns, but the real divine wrath will burn you even if you lie, even if you are the priest, even if you are a prophet, even if you speak to his name, because wrath has no favorites. It has only alignment or misalignment. And that's why most people will never understand the God of the Bible. Because they want a father who comforts and who destroys. They want a baby daddy. But the Hashem is different. He builds altars. And he pillages cities. He gives promises, fulfills them, but also sends plagues. He conquers the land of Canaan, genocide them, slaughter them, cleanse them, displacement. But he done the same to even his own Beni, to the Beni Israel, because at the start they were better than the Canaanites. But later in the evolution of Israel, they became just like them. They became idolaters. Before you know it, they got the same treatment as the Canaanites. So, if you want to carry divine wrath, kill your ego first. Bury your own house, bury your Babylon, slay your victimhood, clean your emotions in the fire of obedience. Ιδεόλα, Kima Gorban, the fire prophetic, the fire offering. Put the ashes in front of the temple, then Deshem. Remind yourself of Amalek, because you have not win. Do not make an ego out of this. You need to always operate as this is always day one. You do not ascend, even if you feel like you are getting advanced, powerful, and knowledgeable. Remember that this is always day one. Amalek is not yet defeated. Remember him. The sacrifice is not yet done. There's Deshem outside of the temple. So, if you want to work with divine wrath, ask yourself, can you be judged by the same standard